I'm Georgia, and this week I'm finding out about some of the issues surrounding investments in Oxford.
I'm Rachel, a second-year geography student at St Cat's, and I'm a member of the Oxford Climate Justice Campaign. We aim to get Oxford University to fully, or at least partially, divest its fossil fuel shares from and also investments from fossil fuel companies. So we aim to do this by demanding the university to put in place positive screening measures, aka investment, for companies that are fossil fuel free, and also put in place negative screening measures, aka divestment, for companies that have a stake in the fossil fuel industry or are contributing to the fossil fuel industry itself. The fossil fuel industry is one of the biggest contributors to carbon emissions. So if we can target that, we could noticeably and significantly slow down the warming on our planet.
I'm Rupert Stewart-Smith. I'm a research assistant at the Oxford Martin programme on the post-carbon transition, and over the last couple of years I helped to restructure St Hilda's College's investment strategy to become compliant with the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. For a college, one of the most significant contributions we make to climate change is through our investments, through our endowments. And so I wanted to work closely with the Hilda's Bursar and with our governing body to ensure that we aligned our investments with our values. And through adopting this climate-conscious investment policy, that's exactly what we're able to do. So the new St Hilda's investment policy adopts the Oxford Martin principles on climate-conscious investment. This requires all the companies we invest in to have a business plan which is compatible with the Paris Agreement. They need to have a plan to reduce their emissions all the way to net zero before mid-century. They need to ensure that they'll remain profitable whilst doing so, and they've got to have medium-term targets so we can monitor their progress along the way. We started off by divesting from many of the highest emitting companies, like coal companies, and then we make these rigorous demands of all the other companies we invest in. For companies who are unable to align their business strategies with this, or unable to change their businesses, then we will ultimately ditch them. So we decided not to go with a conventional blanket divestment policy for a number of reasons. Divestment traditionally deals only with fossil fuel companies. We wanted to extend our scrutiny of the companies we invest in to all the companies we invest in. But more than that, there are some companies who potentially would be compatible with the complete decarbonisation of the global economy. And those companies we feel that we should be able to continue to invest in.
Rupert participated in these discussions and was instrumental in bringing to our attention the Oxford Martin School, which have developed principles of corporate investment towards climate goals, which allowed us to balance the fiduciary duties which we felt as a college towards the benefactors and the beneficiaries of our funds with the climate goals. Previously we had a purely passive stance. Now we have an active stance based on trying to assess how each of our invested companies is managing the Paris Climate Accords. This is based on the premise that if a company chooses to bury its head in the sand and ignore them, then it's unlikely to be a sound investment prospect for the future. The suggestion of straightforward divestment never really made much sense to us, really for two reasons. One was that if the good guys sell to the bad guys, then there's a lost opportunity for influencing the behaviour of the invested company. And also, I think you need to realise that in terms of fossil fuel production at least, the state oil companies and state gas companies around the world dominate the scene. And the companies in which we could invest as private investors is a very much smaller proportion of the whole. Our invested funds are pooled with those of many others into a common investment fund, which is managed by an investment manager independently of the college. So we would never have the opportunity to unilaterally change the way in which those investments are managed. There are too many other interests involved. We were fortunate perhaps in that the investment manager in this case had been approached by one or two other institutions who also wanted to make changes, and so they took the risk, the commercial risk, if you like, of setting up a new fund which sought to engage much more actively with fossil fuel producers, and we were happy to transfer our resources from the old fund to the new fund. Do I believe it makes sense to invest only in companies which meet the aims of the Paris Climate Agreement? I wouldn't go so far as to say that. I think the simple act of investment or disinvestment in a company which already exists is not actually going to impact of itself the achievement of the climate goals. By divestment, I understand the immediate divestment, turning your back on a fossil fuel producing company and walking away. We're doing the exact opposite. We are not walking away immediately. We're seeking to engage with those companies to see how they are managing the challenges of climate change.